What if you really could have the relationship that you want, with all the romance, to feel supported and loved for who you really are, to be able to feel that you're being yourself all the time in a relationship inside and still be excited and thrilled and turned on and juicy all at the same time? Yes. And that great secure feeling that happens with lifelong commitment, that feels really great, security, safety, you can have it, you can. And you can have it way faster than you think, because if I can do it, I know you can do it. I'm going to share a story with you today and kind of lead you through part of my program with it. My best credential, however, is not my training, it's my personal story. Before I met my husband, I was the queen of taking crumbs. I was a mess. I had no idea how to do relationship. I had no self-esteem, no boundaries whatsoever. I was like the queen of hanging on by my fingernails to a relationship, hanging on to a man. I was the queen of working hard. I worked hard at everything in a relationship. I worked hard at flirting, and I was good at it. I'd go to a party, I would flirt, I would get that guy for the night. I'd think I was lucky because I had such low self-esteem that I'd never see him again. Or I'd get into a relationship for a year, and then it would end, and then I'd find out that he thought we were just friends the whole time. Ever had that happen to you? Well, it went like that for most of my life. I could rope him in, but I couldn't keep him until I met my husband. And he turned it all around. He wooed me, he made it happen, and he chased me, and he married me within a year. So that gives you a great idea how fast things can happen. And then it all went bad. I mean, into the toilet. As bad as any story I've ever heard. It was a nightmare. I was married, and it was terrible. No sleep, no sex. I was anxious. I was miserable. There was constant conflict. He was moody. He was mean. This wonderful man turned mean on me, and I didn't know what to do. Counseling made it worse, if that's possible. And then I sort of started to figure things out. I found some books and magazines, and they weren't what you think. They were parenting books. They were all kinds of weird self-help books, animal training books, all kinds of stuff. I tried things, and bingo, it turned around like 180 in weeks. And it just gets better and better every day. It's like we have a framework now that it just never, ever, ever gets anything other than brilliant. And so there's my story. And if I can do it, and I was about the worst of anyone I've ever met, I know that you can do it. So are you, right now, sometimes feeling the way I did, like you're beating your head against the wall? Like, if you could just figure him out, if you could tell what he's thinking, what he means, what he really means by what he says, what he's feeling when he does something or he doesn't do something. If you could just figure it out, everything would be great. He'd know what to do, he'd step up, he'd grab you, but it doesn't happen. It's really easy for me to say, okay, if he's not doing the job, get rid of him. Just say next and get on with it. But I know that when you're involved, when your heart's in there, you don't want to. You want to try everything. You want to do everything you can think of to make it work, right? You just don't want to give up on a man who feels good to you, even if most of the time it feels bad. I really know this. So I show you how in my work, basically, how to step by step go through the details and the specifics of what it is that we do, moment by moment, that works and that doesn't work. What we need to stop doing, what we need to start doing, and drill down into teeny-weeny little doable steps that you can do, into tools, how to transform stuff we were doing into stuff that works. And the great part of this is it's not about games. It's the opposite of games. It's about creating these new ways of speaking and being from inside, from a real place of self-esteem, which I grew for myself, a real place of confidence, a real place of changing what it is you think about yourself and what you think about men, what you think about relationship from the inside out, and then using words and body language to have that change everything on the outside. So let's just do a quick visualization. Don't close your eyes, though. I'll have you do everything with your eyes open in real space in real time so that you can do it 24/7. So just put your man in front of you. Imagine he's there. Now, feel whatever you're feeling in your body, but imagine him smiling at you. Imagine him looking into your eyes. Imagine him going adoring. Imagine you feeling relaxed. Imagine him reaching out to touch your face. Imagine him leaning forward towards you. That feel good, huh? Keep that up, and let's keep this visualization going. This is kind of what you want, right? Moment by moment by moment, to go on forever. Okay, so what we're going to do here is talk about 7 essential areas I work in. And then I'm going to take you through a story of one of my clients. Her name is Mia. These 7 areas, I realized while I was working on this presentation, I use them in different ways in all my different programs. I sometimes go through all 7 of them into steps. Sometimes I dig deep into one of them. So I'm just going to give you an overview of what this is all about for me. The first area is just understanding. Understanding what a relationship is about, how it works, what I call the energy exchange, and about masculine and feminine energy. And then there's stopping what doesn't work. And then there's doing what works. And then 4 is emotional healing. The 5th area is, we can call it sexual healing, about passion. 6 is about power. That's personal power. And 7 is about changing your vibe. That's putting it all together. So I'm going to walk you through Mia's story now, and we'll see how these 7 essential areas work. Okay, Mia's situation. She's 36, he's 40. Sort of nice in the middle there. Neither of them have ever been married, no children. They're both professionals. She has a great business. They have great apartments close to each other. He loves her. They've been together almost 2 years. She wants to get married. He doesn't want to talk about it. Charming, huh? He wants 3 months in which he doesn't bring up marriage because that's turning him off of the subject. 3 months to see how it goes, and then he'll decide whether he wants to be with her or not. Lovely. Well, she thought she could handle it because there was a trip at the 4th month that she thought, oh, well, he really wants to be with me because he's planning this trip. She thought, oh, I can get through another 3 months. Well, she can't. She called me, and she was hysterical. She was so angry, she was spewing. She was beside herself. She didn't know what to do. She'd invested all this time, and he loves her. He says he loves her. She's just completely torn. Her family and her friends are telling her to get out of there, to leave. They're telling her, if he doesn't know what he wants to do now, forget it. I told her, let's try everything we can try and see what happens. So this is what we did. First, we started with the understanding part. So I'm going to give you an idea of what this is all about. The energy exchange, I'll talk about that a little bit later, but let's talk about masculine and feminine energy. When to use masculine energy, when to use feminine energy, and what the heck is it? What is masculine and feminine energy? Well, it's not about being a man, it's not about being a woman. We all have all these energies inside of us. And at every moment, we get a chance to choose where we're coming from. If we are all about action and running our business and making decisions and taking care of our banking and running our schedules, nurturing, giving, leaning forward, thinking, being in our brains, then we're in masculine energy. If we're leaning back, sitting in the sun, experiencing a sunset, melting when we're being kissed, feeling all soft and feeling our feelings, we're in feminine energy. That's just being. So masculine energy or boy energy is about doing. And feminine energy or girl energy is about being. Now, if you're running your checkbook or running a business, you want to be in masculine energy. That's a great place to be. And if you want to be leaning back while your man is doing the work of the relationship, which is what we all want, right? Then you want to be in feminine energy. So, most men, believe it or not, want to be in masculine energy. They want to be in charge. They want to be doing, they want to be thinking. They actually prefer to be in charge in a romantic relationship. They actually prefer to give rather than to receive. It's hard to believe, I know. They actually rather give to you than get from you. It makes them feel in control, it makes them feel like men. Especially where love and romance are concerned, they're as romantic as we are. They like doing all that stuff. But even though a man may really prefer to be a masculine energy man, he may not know how. Or he may know how to make decisions in business, he may know how to run things, he may know how to find an address, but he doesn't know how to be nurturing and giving to you in a relationship. Or you might have met a man just the reverse, who knows how to give to you and be sweet and loving to you, but can't run his life. It can be very, very, very confusing. So let's say you primarily want a primarily masculine energy man rather than a primarily feminine energy man. You know, one of those guys who looks good and smells good and lays there really nicely while you look at him. You know, one who prefers to let you do all the work of relationship, all that rowing the rowboat of love and getting yourself to the shore of love and commitment and happy ever after. Well, in my experience, we all want that. We all want a masculine energy man because we're so good at it ourselves. We can all run businesses. We can all run the world. We can all take care of ourselves. We take care of other people. We're always giving. We're always nurturing other people. We don't want to do that at home too, right? It's just not romantic. If you have to buy yourself flowers, it's just not romantic, right? Nevertheless, we keep meeting men, loving men, getting involved with men, marrying men who are either not primarily masculine energy men to begin with, don't want to be, or just don't know how. They just don't know how to do a romantic relationship. And so we find ourselves stuck looking for a John Wayne type guy, and we get a man who acts more like a girl. Does that sound familiar? Exactly. So all my work is about helping you meet a man, draw in a man, transform the man you have into a man who at least is willing to learn how to use his masculine energy and how to keep that going forever. That sounds easy, doesn't it? I'll just write my list and I'll find the kind of guy I want. The only difficulty is what I call the energy exchange. The energy exchange says basically, you cannot be with a masculine energy man unless you can be a feminine energy woman in a relationship. That means you can run the world out there, but at home, during dinner, in bed, 1 a.m, puttering around the kitchen, at your birthday, you have to be the one who receives. You have to be the feminine energy. You have to be the one who feels so that he can think. You have to provide the flip side for him. Otherwise, it's all lopsided. What have you got? You got 2 masculine energy people butting heads all the time. Everybody wants to give. Everybody wants to make decisions. Everybody wants to be in charge. Nobody's doing the feeling part. Without the feeling part, you can't have a connection. And if the man is doing the feeling part, we hate that. We really do. It feels yucky to us. So, if no one's doing the feeling, if no one's doing the being, nothing happens. What happens for a man if we're not able to receive all the masculine energy he's trying to put out? He feels like he's missing something. He actually feels something missing. He can't connect to us. He can think with us, he can be best friends with us, but he can't connect with us. So what is happening? Essentially, we are smart and we are taking over this masculine role, which Mia was doing. So what's happening here with Mia? She's feeling angry and resentful because she's focused on the relationship. She's focused on giving the relationship all this attention. She's leaning forward in what I call the relationship bubble. So the energy exchange is this. Imagine a bubble. You and your man are in it. You, him. There's only so much room in that bubble, right? Well, if you're doing all the giving and all the taking care of things and all the thinking, what's happening to him? He's just leaning back and going, okay. Then we get even more resentful, more worried, and we just keep doing more and more and more and more and more. Pretty soon what happens? We're pushing him out of the bubble. And that's what Mia was doing. She was pushing her guy right out of the bubble. So how do we undo all this? This is the way in. Everything I do is about breaking down these concepts into doable bits and pieces so that we can actually do them in a way. And I'm going to walk you through some of them. Strong surrender, 2 parts. Strong, that's the part where we trust ourselves. That's the self-esteem part. That's the part where you feel grounded, strong, trusting of yourself, believing in yourself, grounded, powerful. Surrender is, well, what is surrendering? Who are you surrendering to? You're not going to surrender to him. We can say you're surrendering to yourself in his presence, but that's a big concept. So let's say that the strong is on the inside, your inside, and the surrendering is on the outside. So a man could theoretically reach in and touch your heart, right through your surrendered self. So what are you surrendering specifically that we're going to talk about? We're surrendering our stance. Okay, stance. It's a masculine thing. It's a masculine framework that involves defenses, walls between you and him, thinking about things instead of just feeling them. It's about hiding parts of ourselves we don't want anybody to see. It's about not being vulnerable. These are all the things we've been taught to do. Stances are the way we were raised. To never let him see you sweat. Never let him see you cry. Never let him see you look insecure. We've been taught to pretend, right? We've been taught to be perky and poised and sexy and smart and together. That's all a stance. Man can't get through that. He maybe will see it right off, but he'll go inauthentic, flash, flash, flash. He wants to see what's underneath, the stuff we don't want anybody to see. It's an outer sense of control. It's a wall. It's working hard to look confident with a man when really we feel like jelly. It's like trying to act like we're together when we actually feel insecure, uncomfortable, desperate, needy, angry, and scared. We feel this stuff. We feel it. We don't want to pretend that we don't feel it. That's like pretending we don't want to be who we are. We can work on these feelings, but the first thing is to go, hey, I feel this. So we're also conflicted, right? We can run a company blindfolded, but we can't get a man to treat us properly and commit to us. Feels crummy. We judge ourselves constantly. We build our walls even higher. And as we build those walls higher, we become more and more and more defended, and we feel worse and worse and worse about ourselves. So strong surrender is this inner process of taking these walls down. Just taking them down and replacing them with a whole new language of vulnerability, of surrendering. Okay? No matter how you're feeling. Now, Mia was angry. She was so angry. She was feeling this rage inside of herself. And I asked her to take down those walls. because she was trying her best to stuff it down and to not be angry and to not appear angry and not scream. But it was coming out in little bits and pieces, and guess what? He could feel it anyway. You just can't pretend enough to really, really hide it. So my programs are about this step-by-step process of creating belief in yourself on the inside and then taking the walls down on the outside. It's really the reverse of the way we've been taught to be, right? We've been taught to protect ourselves on the outside. We've been taught to be protected of ourselves, to act strong. And we only do that because we actually feel mushy on the inside. Have you ever felt like that? You've been at a party and you actually feel bad hair day and you actually feel insecure, but you pretend to be together? We don't want to do that anymore. We want to actually lean back and actually feel how wretched we feel. And that's the first step into completely transforming that into actually feeling confident, sometimes like that. It's really pretty amazing once you try it. Okay, so instead of being hard on the outside, I'm together, and mushy on the inside, we're going to be strong on the inside and mushy on the outside. Now, Mia is going to move now to the essential number 2, which is actually the step after understanding how all this works. So what I had to do is tear down these walls, right? This is about getting more love, more commitment, more affection, everything from a man by doing less. Doing less. Well, what are we talking about? What are we doing so much of that we have to do less of? Well, Mia was doing everything too much. She was doing what I call over-functioning, which is when you pick up the slack because he's not doing anything. So you do more and more and more and more, and you call him, and you give him back rubs, and you cook dinner for him because you're trying to pick up the slack while he's just acting like a slacker. He's just acting like, whatever. So that's what she was doing. And then she was getting more and more resentful on the inside, right? So she was trying to be in control without realizing that this was about control for her. So what I had her do was something called the 4 rules. The 4 rules are, number 1, don't try to control your partner. That sounds like a big thought, but actually what that looks like is, please take out the garbage. I'd like to go to that Italian restaurant. Let's take the shortcut. Simple things that we do every single day. How many of us don't talk like that? Exactly. Oh, good for you. I had to strip this down of myself. I thought it was a sweet, kind of insecure woman, but I was talking in all these 4 rules, and it completely pushed my husband out of the bubble. So don't try to control your partner. Then don't try to control the outcome. That is, let's get to the party on time. That is, let's go to Alaska for a vacation. I want this, I want that. You may be acting as though you're negotiating in good faith, but what's actually happening is you have an agenda. And on some level, you're pushing it. We all do this. Can't do that anymore. Number 3 is got. Stop yourself before you criticize him. That looks like, why'd you do that? Judge him, which is, you always do that. Advise him, which is, please do that. You should do that. Warn him, oh gosh, don't do that. Coax him, please, come on, please do that. Make the innocent suggestion, oh, let's do that. Ask him the innocent question, how come we did that? How come you did that? Why'd you wear that blue shirt instead of the other shirt with the big smile? Because we're very nice girls, right? Or try to change him. That means he is the way he is. Whatever he is, that's the way he is. And number 4 is learn to take no for an answer. That was really hard for me. You don't have to like it. When he says no, I can't, I have to work late. I'm canceling on you and your mother. You don't have to like it, but don't try to talk him out of it. Now, these are really simple rules, okay? And when you stop doing them, your life will change. Mia's life changed instantly. What happened for her? Well, what was she doing, first of all? She was going to his house all the time. She was calling him. She was making their plans. She was cooking their dinner. She was asking him for things. She was setting up dates. She was complaining. She was talking about the relationship nonstop. Every single thing had to do with something in the 4 rules. She stopped doing that. What happened? She got his attention. She got his attention cold. He wondered where she was. He would be home in his apartment, right? It's his place. He's watching sports on TV. He's puttering around, and she's there, hanging out. So she's hovering while he's watching sports. He can feel that she wants his attention. All of a sudden, she stops doing that. Second, he turns on the TV. She watches for a second. She goes upstairs and reads a book or works on her paperwork. All of a sudden, he wonders where the heck she is. He goes looking for her. She doesn't call him. He goes, why isn't she calling? And he calls her. She doesn't make a plan with him for Saturday night. All of a sudden, it's Saturday night, and there's no plan. He calls her. What happened? All of a sudden, the energy started to switch in the energy exchange. She moves back, and he starts coming towards her. But it wasn't so pretty at first, right? He didn't just show up at the top of the stairs and go, oh, hi, honey, what you doing? He'd get up to the top of the stairs, and he'd go, where are you? Where were you? Where'd you go? How come you didn't call me? How come dinner's not ready? How come we don't have a date on Saturday night? Very interesting, right? This takes us to essential number 3. What do you do when he shows up? Because he's going to show up big time. When you stop over functioning and you start doing the 4 rules, you're going to go, what happened? Well, what he does and what you do in that moment makes all the difference, right? She had a couple of choices. He's at the top of the stairs. She's laying back in her bed reading a book. He says, where are you? I was looking for you. She can say, oh, I'm so angry because, gosh, it took you so long to get here. Didn't you even notice I wasn't here? She was so angry she could have just let him have it right there. That's what she would have done before, right? Well, she can't do that. That's not going to work. That's what she's been doing. That's going to start an argument. That's going to start the cycle all over again. So that wasn't going to work. It would have been the same cycle going back that happens when you play games with a man. Because he probably said to her at some point, are you playing games with me? And she wasn't, right? She was up there reading a book. She wasn't playing games. She was actually reading the book. So what does she do instead? We have never been taught what the heck to do when the guy shows up and we're having all these feelings going on. So I'm going to get to the core tool of what you're going to do verbally, but first let's do what you do body language-wise. This is about the Rory Ray dance position for dancing with men, because being in a relationship with a man is dancing with him, right? So there she was, and I had to do first the Rory Ray dance position. So let's do it. It's fairly involved. In my Commitment Blueprint program, I go through the whole of it, and it's pretty much fun. So let's just do a little of it. Just sit back in your chair, lean back, right? First step is always leaning back in the bubble. Imagine your man's in front of you, maybe 5 feet. You always want to put him there. Keep your eyes open, just to pretend he's there in space. Now, turn your palms out to him. Very different then, right? Now, let's do the strong part. I want you to imagine a tree trunk is going down your back, all the way into the core of the earth, holding you there, making you feel strong. You can lean back on this tree trunk, feel very secure. Palms out. Now take all your brain stuff, oh my God, what's he doing? What's he thinking? Oh my goodness, I'm so, all that stuff going on. Put it together into a ball and drop it down into your pelvis like it's a big bowling ball. And feel the weight of it right down there now. Feel yourself anchored into your chair. Relax, feel it in your womb, feel it in your pelvis, feel it in your vagina. All the heaviness, all the thinking is down there now. Now pretend there's an elastic plastic zipper over your heart. Go ahead and unzip it. Shh. Let your heart breathe. Put your palms out. All right, now, how does that feel with your man standing there? That's what vulnerability feels like, right? You feel naked. You feel silly. You feel stripped down. So she just did that. She laid there in the bed and she breathed. Okay. Well, now we know what vulnerability feels like. Well, she can't just sit there forever, right? She has to speak. She has to do something. So what does it look like? So we're going to take some steps to be vulnerable, actually in action, with words. Because usually we don't know how to do that. I guess I should give you a reason why we should be vulnerable first. I mean, what's good about that? Standing there like that. Makes you feel so unprotected. Makes you feel unsafe if you're walking around at a sporting event or out in the world like this. Actually, it's the safest position you can possibly be in because you're much stronger on the inside than you can ever be on the outside. Much, 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 much. And you may have heard some interesting stories about some very dicey characters being completely won over by people who are in their core strength and totally open. It's an amazingly powerful place to be. The main reason to be vulnerable is this. I have this whole vision. Love grows over time. At the beginning, it can be shallow, passionate, superficial. It can be about what you have in common and the chemistry held you together. But over time, loyalty and companionship and compassion and friendship increases the bond. At the beginning, all that stuff doesn't do much for you. It really works against the juice. But that's what carries a relationship into the happy ever after. So in my vision, we are all here on this planet to learn, to grow, to become the most fulfilled, happy, juicy, wonderful people that we can possibly be. And the best and fastest way to accomplish that is in a relationship. Why? Because when you're with someone day in and day out, they start to see who you are. You start to share yourself, if you're able, from a deep, deep, deep inner place. We start to see their parts that they don't want anybody to see. We start to share our parts that we don't want anybody to see. 24/7, we're sharing our innermost selves. This develops us. This grows us. We see the best in each other, the worst in each other. We automatically become our best selves. We automatically become more ourselves. It's a process of getting triggered. So what is getting triggered? Getting triggered is the whole process of intimacy. We get emotionally set off by our man. We get emotionally triggered by them constantly. We are constantly confronting our fears and our rage, and we're opening up things we don't want to open up with them. We're learning to trust ourselves. We're learning to trust them. This way, a relationship can feed us. It can nurture us. It's like shelter, like rainwater, like food. It helps us develop each other. I find that a beautiful concept. Well, in a relationship, this is a beautiful thing. But how many of us have ever experienced a relationship like that? Hardly ever, right? Because what we're all trying to do is the exact opposite. We're all trying to look good. We've just all been taught to do the opposite, to hide who we really are, to keep the ugly stuff hidden, to keep a smile on our face, to judge ourselves and other people. And after a while, when we can't get the energy up to pretend anymore, then we back away from ourselves even more, and we feel even worse. We build the walls higher. We start attracting men who, instead of wanting to help us develop ourselves on a deep level, want to help us keep ourselves exactly the way we are. We attract men, we get involved with men, and in our relationship, we do everything to prevent us from showing who we really are. Does it sound familiar? And it's very frustrating. We always want our men to open up to us. They're not going to do it until we do it first. And we don't feel safe doing it until they do it. So it becomes this horrible cycle. We have to be the brave ones. We have to start. Because if nobody shows who they are, nothing happens. Nothing will happen in your relationship. There may be passion and drama and great times and bad times, but nothing is really happening underneath in this deep connection. So I'm going to show you the tool called feeling messages, which is the way that vulnerability looks in words. And this is what I had Mia do. A feeling message is a tool. It's not the way you expect to talk your whole life, although I do, and it's great and it works, but it's a tool. You have to use it 24/7. I had Mia talk this way to every human being she met, at the market, the drugstore, the dry cleaner, it didn't matter where, him. What you have to do is you have to say the word feel in the first few words. That means every sentence coming out of your mouth is, I feel. I feel, it feels, I'm feeling. If somebody asks you how your day at work went, you might have to say, it felt overwhelming. But you want to bring it into the present right away. And I'm feeling so relaxed and happy to be home now and to see my kitty. And it feels so good to see you. And I feel so tired. You talk like that morning till night and your life will change. People will look at you. They're just going to go, what? All of a sudden they feel this connection. And that's what happened for Mia. She was at the top of the stairs reading her book. He said, where are you and what are you doing? And she said, oh, I'm feeling angry, and I was feeling a little lonely, and I'm feeling so good reading my book here. I feel so comfortable and relaxed. It feels so warm in here, and oh, and you look so good. Pat the bed. You better believe he jumped into that bed. All it takes is one moment. Men turn on a dime. 20 years of a crappy relationship can turn around overnight. All he wants to feel is that connection, and we have to be the brave ones first. So let's move on to essential number 4, because what happens when she says that? She's shaking, right? That's a terrifying thing to do, to open up to a man who's standing there like that. But she did it. So what happens? Feelings come up. Feelings you don't want to feel come up. All the anger you've been stuffing down comes up. All the bad feelings come up. Everything you've been avoiding by being perky and pretending and trying to hold this relationship together and over-functioning, when you let down, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel anger that may have been covered up by depression. Depression covers up anger. You may feel guilt that's been covered up by anger. You may feel grief that's been covered up by all the overdoing and the kind of cactusy, oh, I don't care, I'm fine, don't worry, yeah, sure, I can walk home, whatever. All that stuff. You are going to get triggered by your man all the time. Everything he does, everything he says, everything he doesn't do, everything he doesn't say, you are going to feel triggered by it. And all I have to say about that is, yay, that's fantastic. I mean, that's what we all pay or would pay therapists thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to have happen, right? Those feelings come up and then you talk them through and work them out. But instead of that, it's free therapy. Here's your guy, the feelings come up. You deal with them right there. You don't have to go back and dig up all the old situations in your life. The feelings are happening right there in front of you. They're just happening in the space. And why is it so good for them to come up? Because that's how they get healed. You can't heal stuff that's in the dark, right? You can't heal stuff that's so deep in your pocket you can't find. You want to bring it up. You want it to be in the space between you and your man, and you want to feel it. And that's how you work through it. And then, of course, you use the feeling messages to explore it. It's the garbage coming up, is what it is. And we're going to turn the garbage into roses, into personal strength. We're all kind of magical, I think. We're all made of electrical circuits. There's energy going through us, coming into us through the lights, through the air. Anything can change in a moment. One little tiny shift, and everything shifts. It's like a tugboat. You know how the tugboats, they give a little nudge to the ocean liner, and the ocean liner moves? That's it, one tiny little shift, and the whole boat moves. So you can accomplish a whole lot with one feeling message. So what happened for Mia? She was angry. She was so angry. She was overcome by anger. And then she was overcome by grief. And she would say it to him, and she would write it. I had her write right speeches. I'm feeling so angry. I'm feeling so powerless. I'm feeling so at his mercy. I feel like I just want to stomp on him. I want to kick him. I want to kill him. Oh, and I love that kitty over there too. There's all kinds of good feelings there too. Right? That's what I call the soup. The soup is, I kind of imagine it down here. It's got grief and rage and anger and fear, and it's also got bliss and joy, great sex, transcendent feelings. I believe in order to touch your bliss and joy, you have to be able to touch your anger and your rage. So when you experience rage, go, wow, that means I get to touch my joy. It's just a feeling. It won't kill you. It will make you stronger. You want to embrace your feelings and sink into them, and that's what I had Mia do. I had her go into her anger and feel it. And when she was able to feel it, it wasn't as horrible and scary as she thought it was. She could talk about it. She could even talk about it with him. But she didn't feel so much of it anymore. Guess why? Because she didn't feel so angry at him. Because she wasn't doing so much anymore. The more we do, and then the less we get back from him, the angrier and more resentful we get. So she stopped doing it, so she wasn't so resentful. So we can move on now to the essential 5 of sexual healing, which is really about passion. It's not just passion for him and passion for sex. It's passion for yourself, passion for your work, for something that might be really important to you out there, a charity or a person that you feel strongly for who's not even related to you. For Mia, we did a lot of things. I sent her out flirting. I sent her out looking at the world, wandering around, experiencing things. And she discovered that she had been giving up her painting. She loved to paint. So we set her up in her apartment painting. Now, instead of pretending she didn't want to go over to his house in order to not be always going to him, right? When he called, she could say, "Oh, it would feel so great to be with you. And I'm feeling so incredible in the middle of my painting. I'm naked and I'm covered in paint. And it feels incredible." You better believe he got in his car and he came over. And she wasn't pretending, right? This is from inside. She was painting. She was actually painting and not thinking about him at all. And all of a sudden he calls and he shows up. This is how it works from the inside out. The essential number 6. This is power. Okay, this is where it all shifted for Mia. Power, if you're not in an exclusive relationship where you have actually defined it as exclusive, and I talk about this a lot in my Commitment Blueprint program, you do what I call circular dating, which is you date a lot of guys all at the same time. I know it seems hard to manage, but you do. And if you're in an exclusive relationship, you flirt. You actually flirt with men. You interact with them. Seems awful, huh? Looking at your face and you're going, "Oh, I can't do that." Yes, you can. You'll resist, but what'll happen to you is your self-esteem will go up. You will feel incredible. For Mia, men started dropping out of the skies. Old boyfriends started calling her. She and her man would go to a restaurant, and men who she worked with, who were friends, would come up to the table. You better believe it threw him off a little bit. And she wasn't trying to. No games happening there. He was starting now to feel a little off balance here, right? So I had her writing power speeches. What is a power speech? A power speech is a feeling message speech that says, "I don't want this. I don't want to go on like this anymore." It's the alternative to an ultimatum. I don't like this. This is what I need. This is what I want. I'm not happy. I won't tolerate this anymore. If you're with a very toxic man, my Toxic Men program is mostly about this, about standing up to a man in a very powerful, leaning back way. So this is how hers worked. She wrote enough power speeches, and we tweaked them into a small amount so she could memorize it. And the time never came. She was afraid to do it. She really didn't want to deliver it, right? She just wanted things to get better. One day, they're in the car, in his car, he's driving, she's sitting next to him. They're parked in front of his apartment, ready to get out. She's sick. She's been sick for a few days. You know how when you get sick, your defenses get down? You feel even more vulnerable? That's how she felt. So there she was, blowing her nose, and all of a sudden she lost it. She did what we never want to do. She lost it. She started crying. Everything they tell you not to do. Crying, sobbing uncontrollably. Well, now, because he knew from experience that she wasn't going to attack him anymore, he felt free to go, "Oh, honey, what's wrong?" And the power speech came out of her mouth. It was, I can't do this anymore. And a power speech, you deliver one sentence at a time, give him a moment to respond. You don't want to just go in a whole big speech. It was, I don't want to do this anymore. What don't you want to do? Go on like this anymore. Well, what do you mean? I'm so miserably uncomfortable, I don't want to just be a girlfriend anymore. Well, what is it you want, honey? I want to be married, I want a ring, I want a wedding date. He went, okay. They went upstairs and they continued the discussion. They had sex, they had made love. It was wonderful. The chemistry had always been great. And he said to her, "What am I supposed to do now?" She said, "It would feel great to have a ring." Okay. 2 weeks later, she had a ring. What now? A wedding date. Okay. Bingo, the girl's engaged and married. She called me, she said, "It's done." That was it. I didn't hear from her for months. That was it. Next time I heard from her, we'd had to deal with essential number 7, and that is changing your vibe. She called me because now they were starting to argue. She had moved into his place. She'd moved her business out of her home and into another office. Everything was great. She had the ring, she had the wedding date, she had the trip that was already planned for the 4-month mark, and they were irritated at each other. They were arguing over how often the maid should come, who should make dinner, stuff. And they were each letting it blow up into something ridiculous. This may be affecting you and your relationship now, right? I laughed at her. I said, well, somebody's got cold feet, and it's not him. This was her fear of intimacy going, I can't do this. I have to continue to argue. I have to continue to have a stance. Well, you say the maid should be here. No, well, I say the maid should be here. They had absolutely no idea how to negotiate anything. So this was my specialty, right? When I turned my marriage around, I learned how to negotiate anything. The most deep, dark, awful things we can negotiate. That's just magical. So I taught her how to negotiate. Negotiating is in my ebook and in, I believe it's in Reconnect Your Relationship also. It's sort of involved, but it involves feeling messages, involves power speeches, it involves respecting him. And it involves the tricky part of switching hats. When you're having a negotiation, you gotta wear your boy hat and then wear your girl hat. Because you're doing business, right? It's a business thing. Well, the maid should come on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Fridays, and we should only do this, and let's talk about money. You have to be able to do that almost as a business meeting. 2 boys. And the second it's over, it's back to girl and boy. So I had to show her how to do it. I had to teach her how to do it. But more than that, what we did, the big thing we did, was we changed everything. I had her change what she did from the moment she woke up to the moment she went to bed and how she slept. Everything. We switched what she ate, what she wore, when she took her shower, when she took her vitamins, when she spoke to him, who got out of the bed first, everything. Whatever it was she was doing, we changed it. We wrote it all down. If she came home, she was used to taking off her coat and changing her shirt downstairs and then coming upstairs to find him. We just changed it all. Changed her colors, changed her hair, and not for him. This is not about him at all. None of this is about him. Did you notice that? It has nothing to do with him. It's all about finding out what's going on with you and expressing it in a way he can hear, which is in feeling messages. So there she was, completely different for her. She felt different. She felt like the new person who can handle intimacy. It shifted her vibe. And that shifted everything for them. They could change, they could feel what was going on being different. It was like a fresh start for them. So that was the last time I heard from her. One session. I called her to ask her permission to tell this story, and they've been married, they went on the trip, everything's great, she buys all the programs, she's a happy camper. So it worked for her, it worked for me, it worked for almost all my clients. It is a step-by-step process. So this is how a man who was not ready got ready quick, how a man grew up, stepped up to the plate, and how an angry, hysterical, desperate woman found herself, found her heart, found her voice, was able to express herself, and got her man. So bravo to Mia. You may have noticed that I like images. I love images, everything from cactuses and ferns to waterfalls and trees. I find that it's a wonderful, easy way to hang a bunch of tools on something that you can get into. In my Reconnect Your Relationship program, I use a rowboat on a lake where we're busy rowing this rowboat to shore, and the guy's just laying down there looking good, right? And how he's never going to pick up those oars until we put them down. And then there's about experiencing the water and the air, and so it's a rowboat image. In my Commitment Blueprint program, I use a bridge from where you are to where you want to be in your relationship. And a lot of bridge-like kinds of imagery around there. And in Toxic Men, I use funhouse mirrors to talk about how being with a toxic man is so distorting to our sense of reality. And I talk about a tree being the kind of relationship that you want, expanding. And I also use power in that. A man who can do a relationship deserves respect. He really does. And I think we're all kind of hardwired to disrespect a man who can do a relationship. I think at rock bottom, we find it very difficult to believe that a man really, really wants to hook up with us for life and know who we really, really are inside. We've been brought up our whole lives, and we hear these voices screaming at us constantly that failure in love is all we know how to do. And that's just not true. It's not true. We're all meant to bond with other human beings. We're all meant to discover who we are in the process of getting to know another person and letting ourselves be known. Men like being married, and they like feeling connected. Men who are married are much happier than men who are single. Statistics all the time about that. And we all know from our own experience, when you meet a man who has been widowed or divorced, he likes to get married again right away. They even did a study in 17 magazine. They had teenage boys, and every single one of them said he preferred to be with his girlfriend, just hanging out, not even because of sex, just hanging out, than he did prefer to be with his guy friends. Isn't that amazing? 17-year-old boy. So you have all the hope in the world. Turning around a relationship can happen like that. It's turning yourself around. That's a process that can maybe take a little longer. But once again, I was the most desperate, the most overdoing, the most rowing, the most confused and overfunctioning and pushing woman I'd ever known. And if I could do it and dial back, I know, and find the life that I want by doing it. And we all know that I'm very, very powerful out in the world. So it's not like I'm making myself this demure, small little girl. Not at all. I feel like I have the whole scale of human experience that I get to have now. I get to be a girl with my husband, and I get to be a man out there. So I wish you all the luck in the world, and I know you will have it. Love to you, and bye. To get more relationship advice, check out this video next.